Hello there, everybody. I think we're live now. This is Chris Mills. We're live for the first time from the new location here in Hamilton, so I'm not quite sure if everything's going to work right. Bear with us if there's some glitches. We'll have Steve joining us in a bit. He's still on the phone taking care of a few things. Yeah, so we've moved. We missed a show or two last week and the week beforehand. It's been really chaotic here, and as you know, it's just me and Steve trying to get this thing going, and with the pandemic and no gigs and all that chaos, it's been tough. But yeah, we're slowly making headway. As you can see, we're up and running again here. I'm hoping to do a shop talk episode soon, if we can get some topics together. So if I can get you guys to kind of join us on our Discord server and drop us some ideas, what you think we should do as far as topic goes, or leave them here in the chat, or comments underneath the video. We'll read those, we promise, once we've got them posted. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Yeah, and if you click that little notification bell, you know, the one on the subscription thing, you'll get a notification when we go live, when we do a show, and when we post a video. So make sure you do that. Plus, we can use your subscriptions and your likes. Leave a comment as well. Let us know what you think, what we should be doing. All that fun stuff. In the descriptions, I'll put links to our Discord server. If you join us there, we can talk and chat and exchange ideas there as well. And it looks like Steve is ready to join us.
Hey, sorry about that.
No worries.
It's just been a crazy ass day, and like I went from having virtually nothing today to within 15 minutes my day was just jam packed with all sorts of different things that got added and different requests and stuff, and now I'm taking client calls at 8:30 in the evening. So yeah, it's a great day to be alive.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, so how's your work been going with your shows there?
It's been going good. I mean, a lot of things. Once again, that whole learning curve has been really good, and there's just more and more things that I just keep figuring out about virtual events that I certainly didn't know 6 months ago. That's for sure. And but more and more, I'm okay with it. Like I really miss the live shows, obviously, but I don't have the hatred towards the virtual events the way I did when I first started. Now
Right.
now I'm good with it because I've had some time, but before that point, yeah, I when I first started out, I definitely hated them.
Okay, I just had to adjust the volume here a bit because, interestingly enough, you're coming over other speakers from the Discord, which is weird. But
Oh, well, that's always fun.
well, yeah, like I said, I don't have the system fully configured yet, so some things are going a little weird.
Ah, it is what it is. That's fine as long as you can still hear me somewhat. That's all
Yeah,
that really matters, right?
yeah,
So,
I just had to bring down the speaker volume a bit, but I think I can still hear you.
good. So, what's been going on with you this past week? Actually, it's been a couple weeks since we've actually done this. So,
Yeah.
what's been going on?
Well, I've been moving and packing and unpacking and dealing with those kind of chaotic things. I directed a music video shoot on Remembrance Day for for a PTSD clinic for veterans. So that was a really interesting one. Was very rewarding too. Let me put it that way. Doing something like that, and yeah, the feedback was good. The people were really happy with the video we turned in. We also did a live performance or a live event there on Remembrance Day with flags and a ceremony and pipers and the whole 9 yards. It was pretty cool. And yeah, we're working on some other videos right now for various clients. So hopefully we're got something in the pipeline doing a video shoot for, well, for the same client we did the Remembrance Day video with. I'm not going to mention names here yet now, but yeah, he's going to do another music video shoot for Christmas, a Christmas special that we were supposed to be doing, and looks like we're doing something in January for to help disabled kids. So we're working on a project like that as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how those develop. But aside from that, yeah, no gigs are happening. I just got a little bit of good news. A gig that I was booked on last week that got canceled the day before. I just received notification today that we're going to be at least partially compensated for the lost time.
Oh, that's excellent to hear.
So
That doesn't happen very often.
no, it doesn't, and especially not without you having to beg for it, basically, right? So
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, that's like I look in the emails. It's like, oh yeah, just let you know, you guys invoice a certain percentage for those shows that you for those days that you were booked on last week. And I'm going
Yeah,
like, yeah,
that's an
great. You know
interesting
what?
point.
I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have to wonder if other people have run into this because I've seen some posts on Facebook from other techs and stuff like that talking about cancellations. And so, like, when we were doing live events and stuff like that, it wasn't that big of a deal because you'd be able to pick something else up very quickly. But now that we're doing what we're doing, I'm kind of curious to know if any of the cancellation policies have changed any because like now that we're doing virtual events, the majority of what we actually bill back is more on the labor side than it is the equipment when you really look at it,
Right.
right? That's really where we're ending up, kind of making our own money because obviously every production company charges a lot more for the time that goes into it than what the employees are paid, right? So
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know that. Um,
Hmm.
Cancellations certainly happen, that's for sure, but some things you just can't avoid. What if somebody contracts COVID and then they can't do the show because they were planning on doing it live in a studio or something
Yeah.
like that,
Well,
and
I'm
they're
pretty.
not planning to do
Hmm.
it remote.
I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of revising of fine print and contract wording and stuff like that lately. To
Oh,
make sure
absolutely.
that if something gets canceled due to like government restrictions or something like that, that you come out of there clean with as far as liability goes and stuff like that. There
Yeah.
has to be precautions like that made by business people just to make sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I was just curious though because yeah, I mean certainly under 24 hours to cancel event nowadays, that everybody's kind of counting on that, right? It's not like it was before where you could just easily get away with it. But yeah, now everybody's counting on it.
That is very true. That is so true. But the thing is also, like obviously since there's not a lot of gear being shipped around, I guess it's understandable why they would feel that they can be a lot more lax with cancellation policies.
True, true. You know, uh, yeah. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff that is sitting on shelves. That's for sure. I mean, it's more the video side of things that is you know really powering everything right now on the virtual event side. When you really look at it, there's nothing happening in like carpentry or lighting really, or I mean, sure, people are still doing lighting and stuff like
Yeah,
that, but it's usually part of an install or it's what you're seeing on my screen right now, or maybe with a ring light.
yeah,
Like it's certainly massively stripped back from what it certainly was. I
yeah.
can't even remember the last time I saw a lighting tech on a show other than when it was March. So
Oh well,
before everything
a
shut
lot of
down.
lighting techs, are working in film and stuff like that to keep afloat. And
Of course,
usually,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, in a studio situation, you usually see a lot of them during the installs and setups days. Well,
Mhm.
but once the lights are running, you just have an op there usually, right? Because nothing gets torn down, or so usually all you
Yeah,
need is a lighting op once stuff is up there. So
yeah, very true. I mean, some of it is set and forget though too. I mean, as far as that's concerned, but I don't know. It all depends on what you want to do, right? But and certainly that, like I said, that department and certainly the carpentry department because nobody's building that or stages or anything like that really.
yeah, staging is the one that
That's
took
a pretty big.
staging took the biggest hit, I think, because.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge percentage of the industry.
Mm,
I would have to think. So yeah, and I mean audio. Yeah, audio's doing a little bit here and there, but nowhere close to what it was. That's for sure.
yeah. And I mean,
But
you'll have like some operators and front of house staff, but you won't need a lot of system techs, not a lot of PA techs, because that
yeah.
that that part of it is kind of dialed back radically, right? So,
Well, like I was a part of an event recently that they actually went to the Royal York to actually have like kind of like a room where they were broadcasting from and stuff like that. And
right.
then everything else was run out of our office, which was kind of cool to do that. And yeah, so that was kind of cool as far as I was concerned. And from what I heard from everybody that had been there, it was a real eye opener too as far as just how things are being run. They had to basically be out. I think it was on the setup day by a certain time because there was a wedding. But once again, the wedding was only like 10 people, right? So
Right.
like I can't even imagine, what that would look like now. Who's going to rent the Canadian room for,
Yeah, very good point. I mean,
right?
why rent a room with 600 people capacity if you're only allowed to have 10?
I don't even
You
know. I
know.
mean, but what are you supposed to do? Like, and this is a question I just thought of that I just haven't thought of it because I mean I've been married for long enough that I wouldn't think of it. But anybody that say wants to go to a justice of the peace, is that even an option at this point? To be able to go to a city hall or anything like that to go and get married if you're not going to have a minister or someone from the clergy or whatever to actually marry you that's not in a church or you're trying to do it in your backyard. But if you
Virtual
want to go and get
weddings.
married with justice of the peace, can you do it? I don't know.
Virtual weddings, the newest craze. Weddings by
See,
Zoom.
there you go, and you can get ordained, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Father
hereby
Mills
declare
has
you
that part.
Mr. and Mrs. Avatar.
Yes, Father Mills.
May you go in peace.
See, your beard's so long we wouldn't even see your white collar.
True. Well, here,
Yeah, there you go.
Jedis don't wear collars.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it's quite something, but I think we're starting to get some encouraging word that a lot of people are thinking that when it comes back, it's going to come back really hard as far as live events,
Yeah. Well,
and that
I saw an article on Facebook the other day that Live Nation is planning to resume outdoor shows with obviously limited capacity and stuff like that next summer.
yeah, summer 2021. I saw that.
Yeah, so hopefully, we can start having some interesting stuff happening. I mean,
I hope so.
for it'll be nice to build a decent stage with nice LED walls, and camera setups and stuff. Whether it's 4,000 or 40,000 people in the audience doesn't really matter as much to me as it whether it's 40 or 400 LED panels.
Well, from an audience perspective, you have to wonder how that's going to be regulated.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, how do you? Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this, like the whole thing about having to prove that you've actually been vaccinated for one.
Yeah.
That's something that has come up. I know, like for this year, but I've been hearing it as well for like airlines and stuff like that.
Right.
Just for the proof. They're talking about it too for border services as well. I guess when they do reopen, as far as on the ground side of things. But I don't know how in a concert of 4,000 people, like, are they going to have social distancing cops?
I, I don't know.
So
I would assume like this is the way I would approach it if I had to do it logistically. I would create like zones, like little paddocks basically in on the floor, and only let like 10 people into each quadrant, and have these quadrants basically with a spacing around them so they're like each square whatever that can hold 10 people, is spaced 2 meters away from the next square. Something
I
along
get
that
it.
lines. I mean, that's as close as you're gonna get, to keeping people apart.
Yeah.
At least I think so. So, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, who knows? It's going to be interesting to say the least how they are going to tackle it. It's just one, logistical problem after another as far as that's concerned. So I'm actually kind of excited to see what some of those solutions are.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, who knows? It might be so groundbreaking that we end up seeing it in other places. You know, that are it's just here to stay, so to speak. Hard to say.
Yeah. We'll have to. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop and if they come back in which form and shape and whatever they come back.
Yeah.
But oh man, By the way, I'm using my camcorder today. I broke the cable from my GoPro. I need to get it. I need to get a new micro HDMI cable for the GoPro. Those damn plugs
That
are just
sucks.
too sensitive, unfortunately.
Doesn't take much to snap one of those.
No, I mean HDMI is pretty bad to start out with, but a GoPro is like, this little end here. I can't know if you can see it
Yep.
here. This little end.
Oh yeah, I'm well familiar.
Yeah,
So
because
I do not miss the days of having to do. I used to do product demos and stuff like that every once in a while for certain clients, where you would have to hook up like
yeah,
a tablet or whatever, and it would be micro HDMI to HDMI and stuff, and
yeah,
like it's just it was always crap. It was
yeah.
just always crap.
Yeah, HDMI
You
is
know.
just a really bad connection unless you only install it once behind the television and leave it there for the next 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
For everything else, it's pretty much pointless. But whatever. I mean, my
Yeah. No,
capture
I
card
agree.
does have an SDI input. I just don't have a camera at home with an SDI output.
Yeah. Gotcha.
If
So
I could have like Westbury in their bankruptcy sales, they have a couple of little Blackmagic Micro Four Thirds cameras that we
mhm.
used to use as flip chart cameras and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Those would have been perfect. They have a proper like PL lens mount, so you can put like DSLR lenses on it,
No, that's kind of
and
neat.
you got SCI in and out. But yeah, and they're about like $1,500 if you buy them new.
Right.
They would have been
Well,
perfect.
who knows what they're listing for? From what I've heard from a lot of people, the auctioneers are listing things well above the real market value of things for Westbury,
Yeah,
which is really unfortunate to hear.
that's what I understand too. I think these people that are just executing the estate sale, so to speak. Don't think they're really aware of what the actual real market value is. I think they're just going by list prices because
I wouldn't be surprised.
probably don't even know what the gear is. It's a bunch of bankers and administrators and whatever, and bankruptcy or insolvency regulators and stuff like that. They don't know the difference between a projector and an active speaker. You know what I mean? To them,
Yeah.
it's just all equipment, and they look up. Oh, I don't know. Panasonic PJ 2500. Costs list price new is listed as $15,000. Give it I don't know 3% per year devaluation or whatever their calculation number is. They come up with X amount, and that's what they throw it out for. Whether
Yeah.
that's any relationship to the realistic market value or not, it's probably beyond them.
Yeah. I know that the one thing that I've heard a lot recently that people seem to be big fans of is the Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro.
I know. I was gonna buy
And
one, but well, I had it on my shopping list, but recent developments kind of will make that unlikely unless I can score some more gigs, make some money quick.
yeah, no, it's just for what you get for it, it's about $800 versus paying like $4,000 for a unit that can kind of almost do the same
Well,
thing. It's
I mean, you got to be
pretty
careful.
revolutionary that way.
There's three different models of the 810 Mini, though. You got to be really careful of that, right? The
Yeah,
the
no, there
the
is.
the simple 810 Mini has no built-in streaming engine and no built-in ISO records. It's basically just a four-camera switcher that you plug in to your computer, and it shows up as a webcam input on your computer, so you can stream with OBS or whatever.
Right.
But it does have the network control because it runs the full ATEM software, so you can control
Yes.
it with the ATEM software app through network. The
Yeah,
second one
I've
is
used it before.
Yeah, the second one is they call it the A10 Mini Pro HDMI, which
Yeah.
has a built-in streaming engine on top of that, like on top of the other features, so you can stream without a laptop. And then there's a
Those are the
third
ones that
version,
make sense.
the A10 Mini Pro ISO, which has
Yes.
also ISO records for all sources built in.
Yeah.
which is the one I was going to get, but well, I might not get any of them, or maybe just the smallest one to see what the budget allows.
One thing that was interesting that I was looking over that we had the 10 Mini Pros, and
Yeah,
one thing that we found out is that it'll do 720p, but it does not do 1080p. It'll do 1080i, but
right.
it will not do 1080p, which we thought was kind of strange, or whatever, because P is definitely used a little bit more than I, but so especially if you're using like say a professional camera like a D70 or something like that, or D100,
Yeah.
and to not actually get that full 1080p or whatever it's a bit odd.
Well, I mean, you got to think the thing is designed as a streaming switcher,
Yeah, no,
right?
I understand
So
that.
it's
I'm
going
just
to be
saying as far as
compressed
that's
anyway.
something I'm
So
going to use,
yeah, but I think it will do 1080p 30 though.
Not from what I saw in the menu settings.
Really
I
interesting.
looked all the way through it. So did a few other people.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that I was just surprised. I mean, I mean, most things are at 30. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did not appear to do that.
Input side or output side? Do you
Input
remember
side.
inputs? It wouldn't take. Yeah, it wouldn't take.
Yes. How's your benchmark coming along here?
It wouldn't take.
It wouldn't take 1080p.
Really?
Yeah.
As an input.
Yeah.
That is very weird because people use it all the time to plug in computers and stuff directly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm kind of surprised.
It just seemed odd that it would be an exclusion like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any different with the ISO.
Well, which firmware versions do you have?
The newest ones.
Because it lists
they were brand new out of the box.
in the specs. It lists 1080p 60, 59, 50, 30, 29, 97, 25, 24, and 23.98. 1080i at 60, 59, 94, 50, 720p. It does 60, 59, 50. HDMI resolutions for computers. 1080p 60, 59, 50, 30, 29, 97, 25, 24, 23.98. And 1080i 60. So that's what it says in the specs as input formats. Because that'd be
interesting that it wouldn't. We didn't see that when we were looking through the interface.
What were you feeding? Were you feeding a camera or were you feeding a computer?
We were feeding a D70 camera. That's what we were doing directly off of a CCU SDI in. So you would have thought that. I mean, it still came up, and there was no problem with it and everything. But
hang on. Slow that back up. SDIN. The A10 Mini Pro doesn't have any SDINs, so we're clearly talking about different switchers.
Sorry. We went through a Blackmagic converter, right? SDI to go HDMI.
Okay.
Into the A10 Mini Pro.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was just gonna say like there's no SDI input on it, so.
No, it's only HDMI as far as I know, and then there's some 1/8-inch jacks and stuff like that for analog audio.
Right. Let me see what Blackmagic says about that.
Anyways, just thought it was something that was
Yeah, no, because like according to the website, they should be able to do it. So that's why I'm very surprised.
That's funny. I had a question today that I threw out to Facebook as well, that some people may have seen, and that was the whole thing about using like a teleprompt app or whatever within Zoom. And a few people got back to me and said, hey, like there's a plugin for OBS for that. I looked all throughout the OBS plugins website and stuff like that. Didn't find anything that really looked like it was appropriate for that. I mean, there's lots of things you can do as far as keying and everything, but as far as an actual physical plugin itself, I didn't see anything that really fit that bill. Is that something that you happen to know anything about?
Not offhand, or not directly. I wasn't really paying attention too closely. I was just reading through the Blackmagic page, and they actually bragged that it'll automatically convert any HDMI input format. So I'm not sure. Maybe the problem was with the SDI to HDMI converter.
Could have been.
you know, something like that.
Could have been.
Because
Well,
like
the thing
I
I'd really find out is if we actually took a camera that had an HDMI output and go directly into it. I mean, if it was a computer signal, it wouldn't matter,
yeah.
right?
Well, exactly.
So,
Computers should be like I said. They claim and brag with the fact that it'll eat any kind of HDMI input, pretty much, like up to 1080. So I don't know what it was. Maybe because I mean, I as much as I like Black Magic, I also have to admit that their HDMI SDI converters are finicky. I've had plenty of situations where they just didn't want to work. But
oh, I think we've all had issues at times with Blackmagic converters, that's for sure. But
yeah.
you know,
But
let's
bang for
face
the
it.
buck, they're still a good deal, you know.
Yeah. So I'm reading the comments here. I'm not sure if you saw this on Facebook.
No,
But when we're talking about concerts, I'm just gonna read this here. This is a user called Voodoo Hog. It says, could you also spread the people out like in the Hunger Games, due to the virus being dangerous according to their age? It's just a wild thought. I'm talking about when they pick their tributes and the girl volunteers. You know what I mean? I'm just like, how long has it been since I've seen the Hunger Game?
yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember.
It's it's been a while.
Okay, I'm gonna have to rewatch that now.
Yeah, but I think what he's referring to is that they were kind of corralled by districts
Yes.
behind fences
Yes.
and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I mean maybe you could have people come in like bubble groups, like up to 10 people. You can come in with up to 9 friends. You have to register ahead as one group, and then you get that corral together.
Yeah. I just thought that was that was something. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's when we start basing stuff off of movies, you know that we're really living in special times.
Oh, we're definitely living in very special times. I mean, that goes without saying, right?
Yeah,
These
no kidding. You know.
It's like I've seen some weird shit in my life, and I'm sure you have too. But this year definitely qualifies as one of the weirdest. And I include that year that I ate a lot of mushrooms into that statement as well. Cuz that was a pretty weird year back in the 90s, but this one's got it beat with no drugs needed. Or I should rephrase that, with only a vaccine needed.
Yeah, really.
But no
Well,
no
this is something you and I were talking about the other day. Is that you know, as much as everyone's excited too about the whole vaccine thing, it's it'll lower the numbers when it comes out, sure, but the efficacy is not quite as high as what a lot of people are saying, and with mutations and stuff like that of COVID, which could be possible and everything, it's not a be all and end all cure.
No,
You know?
yeah, and like we were talking about the other day, like I've heard of at least three people now that have gotten reinfected. That basically had COVID, got hospitalized, were sick, made it through, got better again, tested negative, were released, and now they recontracted the device, and now they're back in the hospital. So either these specific people, didn't have a very long-lasting immunity, or none at all. Or maybe COVID just doesn't produce much of an immunity. Who knows, But the fact remains clearly that there is, at least under certain circumstance, cases where you can get it again. So that means, what will the vaccine actually last long, or is it just a temporary thing and we have to get a new vaccine every 6 months going forward? But point being is the vaccine on its own is not the end all solution. It's just another effective tool in the battery of measures we have to fight the virus. Like personal distancing, mask wearing, sanitary stuff like that. Screening and all these different things. None of them on their own fix the problem or cure the virus or turn the ship around. But every one of them helps a little bit, right? To reduce the number of people that die, the number of people who get infected. And and vaccine will be a big one, in the big gun in that arsenal. But it won't be like, the end solution kind of thing.
Yeah, well, you look at other diseases that are still around that still don't have a 100% cure by any means.
Yeah.
And there's many of them out there, and
Mm-hmm.
so
I
it's
do.
not in the, realm of possibility that we could be in that same sort of area in some respects because, things change along the way and more technologies come out that we're able to formulate these, vaccines and stuff. That's great. But that's not to say that there ever will be a 100% be all end all cure for it. Not like, the vaccines that we've known in the past that we've grown up with, like the vaccine
Polio
for
and
polio or, yeah, or measles or,
yeah.
so it's really, really hard to say. And, I mean, a lot of people we're all banking, which is something that has not happened in a very, very long time. In Canada or in North America as a whole.
Yeah.
It's been a very, very long time that we've had to think about that. So
That
that's probably why we were as unprepared as we were. And,
yeah.
we're not dealing with it every day.
Well, we as a society in general have gotten very, very complacent as well. We think we got everything figured out. We got all the answers. We control everything on this planet now, and in reality, we don't. We've got basically what I would consider dangerous half knowledge about how to run this planet and this world. We know just enough to fuck it up royally, but not enough to fix it.
Yeah.
Because in reality, we don't really know what we're doing. We're learning as we go along, and that's fine. I mean, that's the only option we got. At least we're learning as we go along. At least some of us, or most of us, or whatever. But nobody's got a win it all, fix it all solution in the end. You can just go one step at a time.
One thing that was brought to my attention the other day too is someone said, "Do you think schools like Metalworks and Harris Institute and a whole bunch of other ones are actually doing much, right now, as far as that's concerned, and with the different layered levels of protection, so-called protection that we kind of have in place at the moment,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been much talk about that.
Right. Oh.
So, it's just once again, I'm reading some of the chat here, and
Yeah, I was
they're
just looking
talking
at
about
that.
regular school versus homeschool, and this is a topic that hits really hard home for me because my wife is a teacher, and there's certain things that the government, is not doing that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And one of them that I found out about was uh, a student of a student that as ever at these schools. I can't get into specifics because I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Yeah.
Basically, the older sibling was at a different school. They contracted the virus. That student was told isolate, don't come to school. But that same student also has a younger sibling that was going to a different school, and they were told it's okay, they can go to school, but yet they're in the same house. That does not make any sense to me at all.
That does not make sense.
How, like, if someone in your family that and you're in the same household contracts the virus, I would think that all of you in the household would have to go into quarantine.
Yeah.
Like, does that not seem like the most rational answer to that?
Yeah, but you brought up the keyword rational, and a lot of people are not functioning on rational parameters these days. Plus, I mean, the problem that's always existed and that will continue to exist, that many people follow rules by the letter and not by the intended purpose. And like, if you look at a rule, it says, what is this rule trying to achieve by telling this kid he can't go, And then if you think about what it's supposed to do, then it becomes obvious that his little brother shouldn't be going either to school because he poses the same kind of health risk. You know what I mean? If you think about it, but if you go like, well, the rules doesn't mention that he can't go, so he'll go. So,
Kind of those unsaid, laws, shall we say?
well, it's just common sense, if you,
So much room for interpretation that it can be dangerous at times.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, but you can't, you got to think, what is this law trying to do, And
Yeah.
and then you
I would think,
interpret it
in that
accordingly,
case, it's got to be about protection of all the other families that are in these classes.
Yeah, exactly, and the teachers and the other kids and all that, so.
Oh well, yeah, I would include the staff in that as well. That's for sure. And the one answer that I did not get from that was for that particular student because there are different transfer points in which students can learn in school or or learn online.
Right.
And that's already happened once here in Ontario. And but in the case of a student like that, what happens? Do they automatically go to online and then are expected to finish that time period online? Or
Good point.
do they just not do anything during that 14 days, which would seem like a real waste because they can't go to their classroom anymore and they have to wait for the transfer date?
Yeah, that I mean, there's a lot of logistic dilemmas, that you need to solve in this kind of scenario. I get it, and nobody's got all the answers because it's an unprecedented situation. Everybody's got to come up with solutions on the fly and think on their feet, and adjust things as we go along. Figure out, this works. No, this doesn't work. Let's try this. Yeah, this works. So let's keep doing this. Whatever. But
Now, I will say that it's not just this government's fault. It's been many, many other incarnations of the government too, as far as in the provinces. I had really hoped that coming back and going into school, that the government of Ontario would have sat down with some of the leaders and stuff like that from the different school boards to try and find solutions that work not only to bring down the numbers of COVID, but also to work in the real world, so to speak.
right.
And a lot of the things that were brought up by the government, teachers were like, "What the hell is this? Like, this just completely handcuffs me. I can't."
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the reality of the classroom either, right?
Right.
And that's a really tough role for anybody in one position to really understand. So that's why I'd hope to see
Right.
some cooperation with that. And the reason I mentioned about other governments is because we saw something like this earlier too. Back in 2019, as far as when teachers were going on strike because their contract had not been renewed. And what I would ask for that is, members of parliament and everything like that go on vacation, generally in June, all the way through until about the last couple weeks of August.
Right.
At that point, that is exactly when they start to do contract renegotiations. And if they don't get it done, the kids have already started school, and a lot of teachers feel responsible and stuff like that for the kids, and they use that, I feel, as leverage against the teachers and stuff like that, because otherwise the public will say, well, what the hell, you can't just do this and then my kids are home. But meanwhile, there's this entire period of time where that could have been figured out and there would have been no stoppage of school whatsoever.
Right.
And now I don't know if it's anything to do with union negotiations or what it is or anything like that, but you would think that after all these times and all the different strikes we've had, and it's not just education, there's lots of other ones that kind of fall into this as well, where the public, relies on certain systems to keep moving, to maintain everyday life, that they would take that step to try and make sure that come, that first day of school in September, that everything is as it needs to be and there's not going to be a stoppage, due to some contract renegotiation.
Right.
It's not anything against the teachers. I'm more blaming the government on this, and it's like I said, it's not just the Conservative government. It's been other governments in the past too that do the exact same thing. It's like, well, we've just always done it this way. Well, then, for fuck's sakes, wake up and maybe realize that it's not just about your job.
Yeah, well, but that's
the other people that have kids in school. Like, I'm sure members of parliament have kids in school and they're affected by it too.
Yeah.
How is it that they still have not done anything about this? I don't get it.
Probably because they can afford a personal nanny that's homeschooling their kids or whatever, But I don't know. I totally hear what you're saying, and the problem with all governments around the world is that they're notoriously unflexible for unprecedented scenarios, because like all administrators, they pull out their rule book and say, "What do we do?" And if there's nothing in that rule book or in their protocols or procedures, then they have to call for a committee to decide what new rule to put in there. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So it's a notoriously long process before anything gets done. And even longer before they figure out that that doesn't work and they have to do something else and revise it and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah, this is a topic of great discussion within my family because everybody in my family is in teaching with the exception of myself in one capacity or another.
right.
So not necessarily with like the Catholic school board or the public school board. Some of them are teaching in specialty schools and stuff like that, or not even in teaching in Canada for that matter. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's certainly something that is discussed often. And I think certainly my parents are pretty happy right now that they're retired.
I can
Not having to
imagine, yeah.
continue this, So yeah, they can't even imagine what's happening right now. When they hear the stuff, they're beside themselves. They can't believe it.
Yeah. I wish I was retired right now. Didn't have to worry about working and all that. But
You're like even as it is, whatever our age is, you can easily slap 20 years on top of that just based on the shit that we've done, in this time in the industry.
that's true. Actually, my dad told me this like when I started touring back in the 80s, right? And I mean, he knew what he was talking about. He was a professional musician that played 20 to 25 gigs a month, so he knew what the road's like. And he told me, he said, "Kid, are you sure about this? You really want to, go on the road touring and, every day on the road, you live twice as fast, but you age twice as fast as well,
It's almost like we know the difference between actual years and dog years. So I'd be interesting to see what people would come up with the equivalent of actual years and ABE years.
Road years.
So I may, or well, like I've been in the industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
But that means, say I'm 40 years old, but my actual age is 55.
Well, okay, yeah. So based on that, I've been touring for 30 years now, which in road years would be 60, right?
Yep.
Plus, and I started in 88, so I was about 20 at the time. So I'm 80 years old now. And do I look the part? I mean, and don't be careful. Don't say it. Don't say it. I know what you're thinking. I saw it in your eyes. Don't say it.
Me, I'm a fucker. That's fine.
Yeah. No, I wear my wisdom with pride,
No, absolutely. But I would love to see what people's opinion would be of that, as far as what your real age is, and what your age is and what your AP age is.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like what the ratio is, what ratio people think, like road years versus real years, what the ratio would be. Like I think 2-to-1 is pretty close to reality, at least for my personal experience. It feels about right, but then everybody's experience and perception may be different. So
I wouldn't say 2-to-1 for myself as far as corporate.
Okay, yeah, corporate is probably different than touring. Yeah, corporate's probably not quite as high, but
I'd maybe say 1.5, 1.75 at the most.
Yeah, okay.
It's just different more than anything. It's,
no, I agree. Corporate, I put it 1.6. I think around 1.6 is a good number for corporate. You're probably right there.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So, I'm not wearing a diaper yet, and I've been in corporate over 20 years, so that's something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember when I did my first corporate show. It must have been early 90s or something like that. Because, I mean, I started out pure rock and roll when I was in my teens and stuff. But, yeah, obviously, at some point you got to do corporate if you want to survive. It must have been the 90s. Yeah, I think about 92, I think, was my first corporate event. So that would be, 28 years ago now? Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. My first tour real tour in a tour bus, and with trucks and all that, was 1988. My first tour with, let's say, pack a band in a couple of rented Sprinter vans and drive through the country and play little clubs was around, I don't know, 85, 84. As a 16-year-old kid with my buddy's high school rock band. I was mixing and doing backline.
It's not very impressive when you say, "Oh, I've been doing it since 2000." You know. So.
Well, if you're telling somebody who just graduated from college last year and has been doing it since March, you know, it
Sure.
might be a little more impressive, you know.
Sure. You know, that kind of brings us full circle back to the whole idea of you know, specialty schools that train everybody for this industry, and whether there's been a massive drop off or anything like that. I wouldn't think that there really would be. I mean, I think it's very tough though at the same time to give the same educational experience when so much of what we do is required to be hands on.
That is true.
Even
though for teaching purposes you don't necessarily always require an audience, which is for us to do actual shows the biggest handicap, you know. As we've figured out, there's ways we can set up a show and work, you know, safely and maintaining certain protocols and stuff like that. The problem is the audiences, right? We can't pack a lot of people in the room, and unless we can do that, a live show is not financially viable. But given the fact, if you take the audience out of the equation, like in a teaching situation, you'll totally be able to, you know, how to teach kids to set up a theater stage and mic it and whatever, you know, and do sound and lighting and all that. You can teach that in a safe environment. It's doable. You know, you just can't have any live audience. So for the schools, I think the impact wouldn't be quite as drastic, like for the specialty schools. Oh, you froze, and he's gone. Let's see how long it takes him to get back. His Discord probably just cut out again. He'll be back in a second, I guess. Ah, I think I hear him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, your video is not back yet, though.
Okay, hang on. How about now?
Yeah, no, I just got to get you back as the main thing. There we go.
Thanks, Discord.
It does that to you every Wednesday, doesn't it?
At least not every Wednesday, but just strange that it does it at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I was freaking out similar earlier when I was trying to figure out why my GoPro wasn't working because I just moved the capture card into the other machine, and I'd never tested it before today. So I fired it up and go like, shit, I'm not getting any video signal into my machine through the capture card. What's wrong? So I plugged in my camcorder. It works fine. So I realized my cable on the GoPro was bad. Now the problem that the camcorder freaked me out is if you leave it in standby, it turns off after a couple of minutes.
Right.
So I plugged it in. Oh yeah, I got signal. Cool. So then I was troubleshooting the other cable from the GoPro. And I look up and the signal's gone again. And I'm like, what the fuck? It was just working. Now why is this one gone? And it just was annoying for a couple of minutes till I realized, oh yeah, fuck, that stupid thing's got an auto standby. It's like, why does it need that? There's no tape head anymore. It's a hard disk recording camera, you know. It's like on the old mini DVs and stuff like that. It made sense because you don't want the recording head rotating on the tape, rubbing it through all the time, right? If you're in pause for way too long. But on a digital camcorder, as long as, and I'm plugged into power, like if it did it only on battery, okay, but if it's running on wall power, it shouldn't do that. Bad firmware, JVC, bad firmware. But then it's a 12-year-old camera anyways, so. And it works for now. I just have to record. I have to hit record and then it stays on.
That's good.
Yeah, anyways, anything else new to talk about? Have you seen the new Macs with the ARM chips?
I can't say that I have.
Yeah.
No. You know, it's weird. We actually just bought a couple of power supplies for MacBook Pros or whatever. My wife got into a situation where we had like a knockoff one and basically it didn't work anymore. And she ended up having to use my work laptop to complete some school stuff. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But we just got them now. But no, I can't say I've had anything, seen anything with Mac as of late. And you know, I haven't even touched a Mac in a while, only for the fact that everything that we've been doing with like NDI and stuff like that, it's all been PC based for the most part.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering because like
with like Mac and NDI not playing well together. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is, but
the issue is probably that NDI is not a proprietary format that Apple can claim for itself. That's probably why.
There's probably a lot of truth in that. Yep. So considering how Apple is, yeah, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. It just does not play well with that kind of thing. Now, it would be an interesting test to do, like, when you partition your hard drive and have, a Mac operating system and maybe Windows or something like that on the other side of it. If you installed NDI on the partition part, whether it actually work, on the Windows side. Technically, it should, but you have to wonder if there would be anything, on the Mac that would still cause it to be problematic.
Well, I mean, there's two possibilities what could cause a problem. It could be a hardware or a software issue, right? It could be some interface controller chip that doesn't speak it properly in the network controller. It could be just a software stack in the operating system, right? In Mac OS or whatever, iOS, whatever you're using, so who knows? But, yeah. No, I was just wondering because, like, if anybody had the new Macs, because those those ARM chip Macs, basically, it's interesting because the MacBook Air, the Mac Pro, and I believe the Mac Mini all have identical hardware inside of it. They're essentially the same machine.
Really?
Yeah. And they're just basically different, like, I don't know what you would call different trim packages, essentially, right? One has a screen, one doesn't have a screen, one has this case, one has this case, one doesn't have a drive, whatever, so it'd be interesting. Now somebody in chat, how many years of stage schooling? Call me interesting, but it seems to be more software rather than setup. I've only seen stage and performances on TV because I'm broke. Joke.
Well, Voodoo Hog, it differs. Like, for instance, Fanshock that has the music industry arts program, or I don't think it's called that anymore now. That was about a 3-year program, if I remember correctly. A lot of specialty colleges are a year to a year and a half ish. Really depends. It kind of varies from from school to school, depending on what the program is and what you're actually training to become. Chris, thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I started doing this, you couldn't really study it in school, so the only school I really know is the Road.
Yeah.
I mean, I studied engineering in school beforehand, right? But so I can't really speak on the curriculum and stuff in schools now. What I do remember is back in the 80s and 90s when the first schools started to open up, at least around Germany where I was living at the time, like the School of Audio Engineering and similar things. Most PA companies that I worked with and knew about would flat out refuse to hire anybody who came from a school.
Does not surprise me.
Yeah, just because they had very much theoretical knowledge, but absolutely no practical experience. But their theoretical knowledge made them think they knew what was going on, which basically resulted in very dangerous half knowledge, Like, I remember one time a guy applied to work with us for this PA company that I'm working for, so he took him along to a gig, basically as an A3. I was doing monitor on stage, and my boss was doing front of house. And this probie, I'll call him, that we had with us, came on stage with me to help me with the changeovers and stuff. And he started, and I told him, hey, can you go over there and mic the drum kits? The mics are all standing around on the riser, So all you had to do is move them in, whatever. Next thing, I turn around, and he's sitting there with a measuring tape, measuring the distance from the mic to the drum head.
Oh, my Lord.
Right?
And never get anything done if you're doing it that way.
Well, exactly. And this was a festival situation where we had 10 minutes for the changeover and sound check, right? So my boss comes on the monitor and says, dude, put away that tape and put the fucking microphones on the drum set, right? Like, he came in from front of house yelling at him, like, and I was like bent over or hutched under the keyboard or something, running cables, plugging in or whatever. I didn't even see what he was doing. So I looked up and I saw him standing there with that measuring tape, and I just started cracking up laughing because I could totally see the expression on my boss's face, you know, like that level of astonishment, like what the fuck is this kid doing? Like we're not in a studio; it's a live festival stage, you know. And yeah, like that kid didn't get hired, but and after that, my boss flat out refused to even try out anybody who came from his school.
Even though I went to a school, looking back at it now, there were certainly certain components of it that were missing. You know, it was more like, well, you're going to be a recording engineer, and that's pretty much it, and there's no other option. And like that's just such a lie. Like when you
Yeah,
really look at it, you know, there's way more jobs in the live industry than there is in recording studios by far, even 20 years ago. You know, so but still, you know, there was talk about live and stuff like that, but was there any actual physical, you know, implementation of that or testing or doing anything like? No, there really wasn't. It was really just theory only as far as for live. It's like that. It didn't make any sense. So I
uh,
mean, I struggled a bit, that's for sure, when I first came to the industry and saw how this was, and I figured out things, you know, along the way. But I also had mentors, which is, you know, really important too, which we've talked about in the past. Just the whole idea of, you know, passing that information down to
yeah.
others
By the
in
way,
your
I was gonna say we probably should do a shop talk on the whole mentorship principle in this industry and the tradition of
yeah. Well,
mentoring people. That would make
that's a
a
great idea.
that would make a pretty decent shop talk subject, I think.
Well, yeah, you know, have maybe a student and mentor, you know, years later or anything like that.
Yeah,
You know, I can think of a few people that mentored me in a few different disciplines that I still work with today. You
yeah.
know, in different areas.
Yeah,
It's
because
uh,
it is a rather unique relationship, you know, that develops between a mentor and a student. You know,
absolutely.
and it's very much bi-directional. It's not just, you know, from the mentor to the student, but there's a lot of bi-directional exchange happening that both sides
Yeah.
profit from. Definitely, you know. Like I've
So that's
mentored my share of people over the years, and I very much enjoy doing that. At least if they're eager to learn and willing, you know, and they're interested and passionate about it. That's It's very rewarding if you can pass on that knowledge, you know, that you've collected over the years to somebody who really is happy to learn this and is eager to, you know, expand his knowledge base and try out new stuff. That is
for
really
me, it's
nice
the
to
most.
see.
Yeah, for me, it's more rewarding. Like not only to see that they get it while you're teaching them, but months later, if they're doing something that you've taught them, that not only do they understand, but they also learn for themselves that, hey, you know what, this actually works better for me, and I find that I get better results from this. You
Right.
know, like to see that kind of personal growth when technicians do that, that's when I personally feel the most proud because it's not only just about learning that specific skill, but it's also about learning to think for yourself, you know, and get yourself to a point where you can be more self-sufficient, you know, and then you're almost at that point yourself at that point to try and teach some others, you know. So yeah, seeing something like that, that's what really I really enjoy to see, and I've been very fortunate throughout my career that I've been able to see that in a few instances.
Yeah, I can imagine. Anyway, uh, I think we definitely should do a shop talk on that mentorship thing, and I think I need to come to a close pretty soon now. 'Cause
Me too, and that's all cool. I want to thank you know, the people on the chat and stuff like that for tuning in, and it's been really nice to have some activity. And sorry it's been so long since we've done this, but we've all been busy and we've all had, you know, regular bullshit life stuff that we've had to take care of.
Very
You
true,
know,
very true. The ups and downs. So yeah, shout out to Voodoo Hog for joining us in the chat today. Hope to see.
Frog.
Yeah, see you next time around here, and hope to see more of you guys to get us interactive. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you get told when we're online. And we'll try to iron out a couple of these little technical glitches we still got for next time. And yeah, on that note, gentlemen, and ladies and other possibly present entities, I will close with our little intro video. Maybe it'll run this time. If not, it won't. And then we'll go to the logo, and it'll be the end of the night. Thank you very much for joining us today.